Not where I was.
Right?
I'm trying to remember his job. We were kind of going there for a while during the early days of the virus, but we kind of pretty close to home for a while. Supposed to keep these on.
Is that?
You're supposed to keep them on.
Yeah. You said you can't have a drink or something.
Like the people on TV that are playing at the college football games, they have a big, the band members have a big hole in the
Yeah.
It's like, that's just a mask for show at that point. It's like entertainment for somebody. What they should do is put the mask like over the bell or over the opening of the instruments. You know what I mean? Because if you're blowing through a trumpet or something, put the mask over the bell.
So him and I are both coming up in July. Like 3 years already. I feel like we just started.
So you or Ed or both?
Us, we both are. It'll both be 3 years in July.
As far as going to Florida, was that one or both?
Oh no, just saying no.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so he was saying no. Because I asked him last night. I said, our terms coming up, we're going to renew. I mean, we're going to try and. I think he's probably.
I kind of like having it. I like it for a lot of reasons. One is that he lives over here. It's a little different flavor.
When did your term? When did you start? You were here before me.
I've been here since the city started.
11 years?
Yeah, I was an original. I think this is the fifth time I've heard this property.
Yeah, it's
fourth. What's that?
That's what I said. I mean, I don't know why every time you come in, then something happens. The thing's been vacant.
I'm curious if the things will happen anytime soon.
Is there something with the property, or is it cursed? What's going on here?
The world's obviously changed, So here's my indoor air quality device. It's putting out ions that attach to the bad particles. Filter for neutralizing, and it's got filtering and stuff in there. I put that in my cup holder in my car. It's kind of cool now when your heat's running, you can't do recirc. You gotta get the fresh air because of the defrost. You don't fog up your car, you know? This thing runs pretty hard sometimes, because I'm getting all that bad air like on 285.
Doing all right, how you doing today? Sitting here playing on my phone while I'm waiting for the meeting to start here.
Hey, Richard, how are you? I'm good. Hanging in there? Everything good?
So you have standing room only for tonight.
So what?
So I said, I see we have standing room only for tonight's meeting.
So I don't have the agenda in the package. We just have one item.
It was an email, it was in the attached email thing. It's pretty much just a revisit of the unfinished business from last time.
What's going on?
Here last time.
These guys really gonna do something anytime soon.
We're here. We're here.
I was just telling Jared, I think I've seen this one. The package says this is the third.
Oh, okay, yeah,
It's been four.
This is the third time, second time,
Well, I'm a little,
no, third time since then.
you know, conflicted. Kind of like, are we doing this again? On the other hand, this environment, I'm thrilled to try. You know, so it's kind of.
That's why we voted for.
Go, man. I'm good. Yeah, I brought this all.
Well, that was when it was the 15th. When it changed, after the date changed, he didn't respond, but I didn't see a response from him.
2 minutes late, yeah, who's gonna run?
Well, he showed up a few minutes late last week as well, because
Okay.
Thomas started the meeting last week.
Yeah, it's just weird, because I heard about last week, but never responded to it.
Interesting. Yeah, I was all involved in the back and forth on who wants to show up in person, who wants to work from home. I'm like,
Well, I knew that I wouldn't be able to get on the Zoom call, so that's why.
well, I didn't care, and so I thought, well, if somebody had a strong preference. might as
What's
well.
that? Oh, I'm zoomed out. I like seeing you all. It's good seeing you.
I logged on last time and I watched this thing and no one could see me and no one could hear me. I just sat there and watched.
Well, I was just in a Zoom call literally for an hour and a half.
I'm tired of it, man. I'm a little biased. I want people to go back to work, but.
Ed just joined us. Yeah, we got all the remote folks are there.
It's so encouraging. You slide over one, bud.
Waiting for Bob?
Thomas is online if we need the assistant chair to start the meeting.
Yeah, you tell them to go ahead and start it.
Can they hear
Hey,
me?
Thomas, Bob's not with us yet, so can you kick us off here, bud?
Sure. I'm kind of having trouble hearing a little bit of the conversation, but whatever you just did right there, nailed it. So, can you hear me okay?
Hear you just fine.
Yeah, you're good, bud.
All righty. Well, then, what we'll do is, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Planning Commission, December 8th, 2020. It's approximately 6:03 p.m. And it looks like we've got 3 people there in person, 3 people at home. So if you would, please go ahead and we'll introduce ourselves. Can we start with the people that are in person? And then we'll have the people at home, and please designate whether you're in person or at home in case just people are listening to the record as opposed to viewing it. So at your leisure, please introduce yourselves. Thanks.
Jared Abram in person.
Kirk Anders in person.
Rob Price in person.
Erica Harris, attending via Zoom.
Ed Wagner attending via Zoom.
And Thomas O'Brien, I'm remote via Zoom as well. I believe that we understand that Bob will be joining us in the not too distant future, we hope. So we'll keep an eye out for him. But until then, we'll go on and begin plowing through this agenda here. First order of business is to take a look at the minutes from the November 10th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. What's your pleasure on this, to quote Bob?
I'll make a motion to pass the minutes as submitted.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion to pass, or a motion to approve, and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, well then, if we could go ahead and hold the vote on this, motion to approve and second to approve. If you agree with this motion, raise your hand, please. Okay, opposed, like sign. It looked to me like the motion passed unanimously. Oh wait, excuse
No,
me,
no,
we've
Kirk
got
was
an
abstaining.
abstention.
I'm abstaining. I wasn't here.
Kirk Anders is abstaining. Okay, all right, very good. So we are, let's see, 5-0-1, I believe, and the motion passes. Okay, staff, do we have any organizational or procedural items?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to keep on running then. We have unfinished business, and it looks like pretty much everything that we had discussed last time appears again this time. It doesn't appear that there's anything new beyond that, although I guess we'll hear about that later. So staff, is there a presentation? We had asked for a traffic study. I know that that has been added to the packet, but do you have a presentation for us?
Yes, the applicant's presenting tonight. I just want to clarify a couple of things. There was 4 slopes with this request. The slope to reduce the floor to ceiling height, that has been withdrawn. And slope that moves, that was slope 20-02D, I believe. So with that removed, the one on the bottom becomes slope D. And that request has also been modified. If you recall, we discussed how the uses would be presented with that along the street there, perimeter center east. And the condition 20 has been modified where the eastern 20 feet would allow both commercial and residential uses. Other than that, the applicant's here tonight, and I believe they do have some examples of some of the architecture that was requested at the last meeting. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to them.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's not. Oh, no, no. It's not a shelf, last one. Right there. Oops.
Share screen.
Perfect. Look at that. All right, good evening, members of the commission. My name is John DiGiovanni. I'm with JSJ Perimeter, and we are presenting this this evening for 84 Perimeter Center. And we are back after deferral from last meeting to answer some of the questions that some of the members of the commission had. So we have a short presentation, and hopefully this will answer the questions. Oh, that's not the, I guess we'll do this. This is not actually the right presentation. Hang on a second.
I was gonna say.
That looks good though. Was it? Can you see that?
It's still showing the same.
Get that? There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that.
It looks like the mall.
That's not right.
Urban Apparel there.
There we go. All right, so as you're all familiar with the property, it's at the corner of 84 Perimeter Center East and Ashford Dunwoody Road, directly across from the Perimeter Center Mall. The property is 2.86 acres, and we are planning or intending to develop retail, commercial space, office, and up to 225 multifamily age-restricted units. We have previously been approved for all of those uses, excluding the multifamily units, and in place of the multifamily was a hotel. Given the advent of COVID, the hotel industry has taken a significant impact, and the hotel is no longer viable economically in this location. So there's a picture overhead of the site as it stands today. In the middle of the site is a former bank building that has been vacated, and that's generally the positioning of the location. And this is our proposed plan. So you see the front along Ashford Dunwoody would be primarily retail, commercial, and office space. Along the Perimeter Center East side would be the multifamily as we envision it. And the parking deck and the surface parking area are as were previously approved. This is from the second floor. Let me back up for just 1 second. So you see there's a drive here that bifurcates the site. This is the first floor rendering and the overview. The building actually expands over the top of that, crosses over the top of that road, and so it's an actual drive under. From the second floor up, you'll see how the multifamily building lays out. So we propose to have an amenities package on the front facing the Perimeter Center East. The building would be roughly 8 stories on the front, and then—
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've lost audio.
Is that Eric?
Somebody lost audio.
Is that Erica?
Erica, are you able to hear us?
She looks like she's frozen. Her video.
Looks like we lost her completely. Her video is gone as well on this end.
So it sounds like it might be a problem local to her, because I'm seeing and hearing Ed, and can you all see and hear me remotely as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Staff, how have we been handling, folks dropping off and back on? Do we want to pause for a moment, or how have we been handling this?
I'm not.
This is a unique situation, apparently.
Okay. Well, why don't we give her a moment? I mean, if it works and does not abridge anybody's rights, I'd like to kind of put everything on hold and see if we can give her a moment to reattach. And then if we don't see her in a minute or two, we still have quorum, if I'm not mistaken, and we can proceed without her. Is that correct?
Is the applicant okay with that?
Hey, she's back.
I'm back. Yeah,
Oh,
it kicked me out and then popped right back on.
Well,
wonderful.
we held up. She
Welcome
didn't
back.
miss anything.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Glad to have you back. So this overhead shot here shows the rendering of the multifamily as it's positioned against the retail at the second floor level and above. So there's an amenities package on the front facing Perimeter Center East. And then over the parking garage, you'll see that the multifamily extends over the parking garage. And then there's another amenities area on top of the parking garage, which will encompass outdoor seating, bocce ball, barbecue, and other amenities that are consistent with the product we're intending to deliver. Now, one of the other features of this is that the people who live here can now easily access the retail, as the two structures will be connected in some fashion. So if you lived in the building, you could actually walk over to the retail and enjoy dinner at a restaurant or the coffee shop or whatever other retail and commercial uses are available there. And we also have a rooftop plaza here, which will be for the use of all, both the commercial and the multifamily residents. So one of the questions that came up the last time was, well, how does this coordinate, or what is the perspective of the structures to the adjacent apartment building? So here's a rendering that shows the adjacent apartment building and its positioning in relation to our structures. Now you'll see that it says hotel in the foreground because that's where the hotel building line was, and that's roughly where the multifamily building line is. There is an extension that comes out over the parking, in front of the parking garage, and then down a little ways and then back, sort of a little wing. I think you can see it here. So essentially, the multifamily building is much lower than our structures from the elevation standpoint. So everything that's happening is relatively above their roof line. Everything that's above the roof, the parking structure, building, and amenities area is above the roof line of the adjacent multifamily building. And there was also vegetation between the two properties, which will also shield the that multifamily, the existing multifamily. Next is a photograph we took of the site. You can see the vegetation that's between us and that multifamily building. And this is another depiction of the same. So essentially they'll be shielded from our project. So their visual impact is no different than it would have been with the previously approved hotel. This is our design direction. As you can see, this is looking from perimeter center east, and we will of course be meeting all the PC2 design requirements. And you can easily see, clearly see the drive under here that enters into the surface parking area and the parking garage that's behind the structure and accessing all of the retail. We tried to do a very upscale, contemporary facility that someone of 55 and older would be proud to live in and desires to live in. When you're talking about that age group, it's not a matter of their monthly expenditures. It's a choice to live in this location because they have the means to live wherever they would like. So we're giving them an opportunity to live in some place where they make that choice to live there. This is another elevation from a different angle. Again, the drive under here where you can enter into the retail area. And this is a screening of the amenities and pool on the front of the property. This is an overhead shot of the same. Again, the drive-in. There's the secondary drive on the side of the building. This is between us and the multifamily building that sits directly to the left, and then the amenities package here. And based on our discussion about activating perimeter center east, this will all be active use here, except for the far left, which we've agreed that that can remain multifamily. So this will be leasing office, clubhouse, gymnasium, media room, and clubhouse that surrounds the pool area. This is a rendering of the retail, the 3-story retail, and shows the area, the open roof area on the second floor here. This is a stylized rendering from our leasing folks that show potentially what it could look like with the open air patio here. Above here, this gray box would be the multifamily. And of course, that would be connected to the retail so that you didn't have to leave the multifamily by getting in an elevator, going outside, walking around. You could go from one structure to the other and enjoy those amenities. The other issue that was presented was, or question was whether we had an updated traffic study. So we went about getting an updated traffic study. So as you can see, we did it for both age-restricted multifamily and both standard multifamily, market rate multifamily, which was the request. In both cases, the traffic is less than what would be with the hotel. So the daily trip count on the hotel is 1,380. The age restricted is 8, if I can read that, 78 maybe. and the market rate is $12.24. So this was performed by Kimley Horn, who did the original traffic study. Part of the original hotel traffic study, we made a concession to the city that we would contribute $20,000 to the turn lane, the left-hand turn lane from Ashford Dunwoody, to enhance that turn lane, and we will continue to meet that commitment. Now, this is a project we did in Florida, which is very similar to what we just described to you. This is a Class A++ property. It was designed for individuals who chose to live here, not needed to live here. And the reason is that this was, from a price point, higher than the rest of the product in the market. The reason the price point was higher because it had enhanced amenities, enhanced finishes, and exactly the product that we've represented we would do. This shot of the balconies, one of the other questions was, well, are there going to be a lot of balconies? In both cases, from the renderings for this project and the one we actually constructed, you can see that there's significant balconies and corner balconies with a lot of glass, a lot of windows. We like people to be able to look outside and enjoy the view and be able to see, hopefully, skylines. This is the pool area on that project, with very similar configuration to what we've just presented. This is the entry. We wanted to make something very dramatic, something that welcomed people home, that made it feel exclusive and special. And so we've created this sort of entryway for this product, and we intend to do the same for Perimeter Center. This is the bocce ball area, and you can see that to the left here is a table. This is outdoor eating. We would do that on the amenities area above the parking deck, where we would have the bocce ball and outdoor eating and grilling stations and all of those amenities. This is the interior club room, or one of them. This is the game room. This is the outdoor seating area, which I just mentioned. And to the left of that seating area that you don't see is the entrance to the demonstration kitchen. We will also include that amenity in this project. And what that does is allow people to have a gathering when we can, and have, they can hire caterers to come in and prepare a meal or hors d'oeuvres or whatever the planning is, and then have the ability to have that gathering sit outside and enjoy the outdoors. This is the interior of those units. This is high-end granite. Every cabinet in here is Italian made. All stainless steel appliances. This is a shot of the window setup. As you can see, a lot of glass, a lot of light that comes into the units. You can also see that the patios here are finished, not just bare concrete. This is elastomeric coating that we put on every patio to give it a more residential feel as opposed to an unfinished concrete balcony. So some of the amenities that we would consider for this project: club rooms, of course, storage areas, bike rooms, media rooms, pet spa, dog walk, demonstration kitchen, which we've already talked about, gaming room with virtual golf, bocce ball court, other outdoor amenities, the summer kitchen, which I talked about, with the outdoor dining, gathering spaces, both indoor and outdoor, both in the residential and the commercial side, Amazon lockers, or what we use are Luxor lockers. These are very automated lockers. You're probably familiar with them. Your packages get delivered, you get a notification on your phone, and you know that your package is there. There's also now Tide dry cleaning lockers, and that works in the same way. You have a locker, you put in your dry cleaning, they pick it up, you get a text message when it's ready, you go get it. Advanced technologies. In many of these locations, we would have advanced technologies. In a new project we're doing in Avondale here in Atlanta, we are including a company called Smart Rent, which every single facet of entry or exit in the building is controlled by your smartphone. You don't need a key for anything. You don't need a fob for anything. Everything is automated. You drive up to the gate, to the parking garage, it automatically senses your phone and opens the gate. You walk into the building, your phone's your key. You walk into your unit, your phone's your key. Somebody rings the front doorbell, you have a video camera there, you see them on your phone, you can let them in. You control every facet of your life from your cell phone. And we intend to include those kind of advanced technologies in this building as well, including what is now coming over-the-air charging. That's an aside, but basically it's a router sort of system, a little box, and it sends out a wireless signal that your phone converts to electricity, charges every device in your house. You never have to plug anything in again. So those are some of the advanced technologies we would include here. Other things are the office share in the building itself, so that you have a place to go work in case that your spouse is at home and you don't have the room to do your Zoom call. We will have dedicated office share space within the building. And then a Peloton gym is most likely something we would do here as well. So the project, we believe, and we have believed since we began this journey, is to bring new economic activity to the city, enhance the corner of Ashford Dunwoody Road and Perimeter Center East, given that the property right now houses a vacant former bank building, provide construction jobs and permanent jobs to the city and the community, and provide a quality amenity for the city as well. And that concludes my presentation. Hopefully that answered all of your questions, and we hope that you will vote to approve the project. And we are committed to bringing a quality project to the city of Dunwoody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Staff, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll ask you to please correct me if I'm wrong, but we now allocate 10 minutes for individuals in the meeting to speak in favor of this, and then, of course, 10 minutes for those opposed. Am I correct in those next two steps?
No, we've already had the public hearing. This is a follow-up meeting, so there is no public hearing.
There is no public hearing associated with this. Understood. Okay, so at this point then, if I understand correctly, we move to board discussion of these items. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not necessarily sure how best to go about citing each board member. In fact, I can't even see y'all anymore with the presentation up. But I guess I would ask, what's your pleasure? To quote Bob again, do we want to go ahead and just start with the folks there, and then those of us at home can chime in as well?
It's fine with me.
Well, why don't we go ahead? Jared, do you have any comments or concerns or questions you want to ask?
He's pointing to me. I'm on the other side, so I guess I'll start.
Okay.
I don't have a lot. My first question is kind of one I always ask, which is just on the staff recommendations. Are there any issues or concerns on either the part of the applicant or staff with resolution of any of those?
No, as far as the applicant is concerned, I think we're fine with all of those conditions.
All right. Anything with the staff? Any condition that you have a concern with or an issue?
So the traffic study, that was why we didn't require it, because we knew it was going to be lower. So no, we don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
We have not had a chance to look at those architectural drawings. But so that's up to you.
Okay. And I guess the next one is a question that arose, and Bob was rather persuasive on this last time. You're still keeping this as an age-restricted proposal.
Correct.
But you're okay if we were to recommend multifamily?
It would definitely be okay with us.
Okay.
But we were given direction by
Sure.
the city. That,
No, I understand.
but we're fine with that.
Yeah, I like I said, that issue had come up before. And then I guess the last, if the first floor uses, and I guess this relates to staff recommendation number 20, if you could just maybe give me a little bit more explanation about what the bottom floor of the entire development is going to look like. Just so I get a sense, you said that the very far end was going to be residential. Was it going to have any commercial or active uses, I guess? Is that correct?
Yeah, the area closest to the existing multifamily, I think the option is to keep it multifamily. It could be either or.
Okay.
But the area that's to the, if you're looking down at the site, the furthest away on the opposite side of the pool from the existing multifamily would be active use.
Okay. And then commercial use would start with just the commercial building, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Those are the questions I have now. I may have something in a minute, but if you want to move on, I guess Kirk is next around the bend here.
Yeah, I had a couple quick questions for the applicant. Are you going for any type of LEED certification or anything like that?
We have not discussed that today, but that's not to say we won't.
Are you going to, on that train of thought, are you going to try to recapture the water? Because this is a pretty high density site, and reuse any of that for your landscaping or?
You know, we have done that in past projects, so it's not out of the question. But again, from a design standpoint, we haven't spent a lot of time in that detailed design, given that we're not yet approved for the use.
Right.
But it is something we'll definitely work with staff on.
Yeah, I know we're making an exception if we approve this for the impervious ratios, right? So it's just a thought. How do you, and I think you guys probably talked about this last meeting, and I apologize, I wasn't here. How do you go about enforcing the 55 and up? How is that regulated internally with your organization? Is this your organization that would be doing the 55 and up?
Yes, and
Okay.
and it is the federal definition of 55 and up under the HUD guidelines, and it's just part of the application process.
Okay. So someone who's 55 or older has to be on the lease? Is that how that works?
Well, at least one person occupying the unit has to be 55 and older.
Okay.
And that'll be, it'll be called out in the application when they fill out the application. So, I mean, that's literally the first thing they ask when they ask for ID.
Okay. So I believe you were here before, and you referenced Peachtree Hotel Group as a partner.
Correct.
I think. And so is your organization the senior housing developer part of this, or is that a partner organization?
Well, we are a multifamily developer.
Okay.
We had proceeded with the hotel because it was the approved use, and the hotel was committed to the deal prior to COVID. But we are a hotel developer. Now, that doesn't mean, multifamily developer. That doesn't mean we won't partner with someone on the deal.
Okay. Because you referenced, your other projects.
Right.
So I just wasn't clear on all that.
Sure.
I know Rob and some of my other buddies on the planning commission asked some questions about the parking deck, and then you had that slide that you presented there. Did y'all talk about lighting at all?
Yeah, under the previous approval, there was concern about lighting and that affecting the multifamily behind us.
Right.
We, in the prior conditions and included in the conditions today, we're going to screen that with louvers or some other mechanism to deaden that light so it doesn't bother those living behind the facility.
I think we had a group that met about a year ago, and I haven't followed through on my commitment there, but one of the things we learned was that the source of the light should not be visible to the neighbors. And there's a way to do that now, I guess, with all this funky LED that you can direct and that sort of thing.
Right, and we have committed to meet that condition.
Yeah. So the design of the deck on the side facing the apartments, I didn't see a slide for that. Is there a commitment to what that would be?
Yeah, that's where we would put the louvers. We don't have a design for that yet because we're not sure what the mechanism will be, whether it's louvers or screens, or there's a number of options available to defer or redirect the light or block the light from the adjacent property.
Yeah, I was talking about the design now. I've kind of moved forward just to what's the construction of the deck what type construction will it be?
It's precast concrete.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so nobody wants to look at that, right?
Right.
So,
Well, once you have the louvers on there, plus there's all that vegetation that's back there as well.
so the louvers will be on the structure, or will they be in the open?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Rob French, our architect with Phillips Partnership, might be able to answer that.
Okay.
What we had designed for the deck previously when it was a hotel project, same game plan that we were planning to move forward with this.
Right. I remember talking to
area.
you. I recognize you now.
So it is precast structure. It's going to have some integral colored added to it. But the benefit to the scheme that is being proposed now is that no portion of the deck faces the public streets, because now the multifamily actually wraps 3 sides of the deck.
Right.
So the only side that I know we're really talking about is the side facing the apartments.
I would agree. The other side's facing
It's facing
a
the
parking deck
on
for
the
Ravinia.
Ravinia side. Yeah,
right,
so
right.
that's kind of inconsequential. So it's a precast system with openings at each level above the knee wall, and then that's where you inset the louver system into that. So that prevents headlight spillage from
Yeah.
going out, and then LED is pretty much the predominant light source inside the parking decks now because it's so controllable, and then that's usually recessed up, and so the louver, between that and the louvers, there shouldn't be any light spillage.
What can we do to, I mean, can we wrap the precast with something or screen it, or, I mean, it's not visually appealing. It's gonna, there's mold and all that kind of stuff. It's, it doesn't, has to be pressure washed. What's an alternative there?
In terms of just decoration or just kind of helping with the longevity. I mean, usually when you seal the concrete, it helps retard some of the mold issues. Mold issues kind of come up because you get porous, pockets and everything. I'm not a big fan of the textured decorative solutions in that for that very reason. But if we seal it really good, it is going to need to get pressure washed on occasion.
Mm-hmm. I guess the last question I had was about this road and the $20,000 and the discussions with, I'm guessing that's Hines. I don't know who could speak to that. Was I looking at the old package?
Yes, but he was talking about the southbound left turn lane off of Ashford Dunwoody onto Procedural West. That's the contribution that he was making.
Say that one more time.
The southbound off of Ashford Dunwoody, turn left there onto Perimeter Center. It's that extension of that turn lane that he's contributing.
Okay. So we're not trying to cut through to Ravinia Parkway anymore?
We can, as long as they agree. They have not agreed yet.
Okay.
So he's going to take it to the property line.
Okay. So we talked about all this traffic last time, and I assume maybe y'all talked about it last month. There was all the discussion about the crosswalks and lining up with Parkside Center and all that. So we're good on all that? Okay. All right, good. I think that's all I had.
Okay, Jared?
Sure. I just got 2 really quick questions. So my first one is if I take a guess, we might want to vote to, take off the age restriction on this. And my question for you on that is, we haven't approved an apartment complex in Dunwoody in quite some time, as you probably know. Obviously this project is geared towards the, seniors 55 and up, the amenities, the price point, that type of thing. But I'd just like to hear from you, what, if we decide to try to, vote it without the 55 and up, what's kind of to prevent it from being, a standard apartment complex, if you will?
Well, I think under either case, our commitment is to build a Class A plus property. I think it's beneficial to us if we did not have the age restriction, because it opens up the pool of available investors and lenders to the deal. So it would happen much quicker. But I don't think it changes our approach, our design approach, our amenities approach, our finishes approach. I think that's all going to remain the same for us. So by virtue of that, you will have an older clientele or more professional clientele. So you won't get an objection from us if you wanted to remove that condition.
And what is there a, do they have to have a certain amount of owner occupancy, and what about being able to sublease these and that type of thing?
Well, there's usually restrictions in the, let me understand the question again. I don't think I follow,
So on
actually.
another project, we, made it where we voted that I think it was 80 or 90% had to be owner occupied.
These are apartments.
These are apartments, though.
Right. I mean, so, they're going to be owning these.
No, it's all for rent product.
Oh, there's 100% for
No,
rent.
yeah, there's no ownership interest in
Gotcha. Okay.
these units.
Okay. All right. So then my last question is going to be on the pool side, going out Perimeter Center East. Have you thought about if that's going to be primarily in the shade most of the time? Have you guys?
Well, they do a sun analysis. So I think somebody smarter than me figured that out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be not a lot of sun over there on that side.
Well, I don't know that, I haven't seen the analysis. Have you, Rob? Yeah. Right.
But until the project is fully vetted out in terms of exactly how the layout is, since we're trying to put as much active use on the ground floor, there is the potential that pool is going to end up on the top of the parking deck, which would obviously be a better sun situation.
Right.
We're going to be, I know John's going to be talking a lot with some of the market brokers to kind of figure out what's going to be the best way to utilize the amenity spaces.
Gotcha.
So it may just become
that's facing north. It's going to be probably 80-90% shade over there.
Yeah, especially since it kind of takes a little seat around it.
Exactly. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, Erica, do you have questions?
Yep, a couple. So that was really interesting hearing about the technology enabled piece. And I guess I had one quick question, especially if we're considering either next generation renters or age restricted. Will you guys be putting in the parking deck for EV, electric vehicle charging stations?
Oh, yeah, most likely.
Okay, great. Just because I know in particular with age restricted, I've read that that's actually super important to that community. I want to second Kirk's question on the water retentions, in particular with approving the 85% impervious. I think that's something to consider in that area. And then, we're talking about 55 plus, not 55 plus. So one question I have regarding age restricted is, do you see any sort of, do you have a concern over being able to rent to 55 plus and to fully have the building be filled?
Well, we think there's a market for it. But traditionally, lease up for 55 and older is much slower than that of standard market rent. So there is some consideration for, a lease up velocity related to that age group. But we certainly think there's a market for it here.
Okay. And then I guess my next question is, at the end of the previous meeting, we finally, I think, hit, and we were like, oh, we're talking apartments. So one of the questions I had that I was mulling over the last month was, why apartments versus condos? Why rentable versus owner occupied type of units?
Well, we're not condo developers.
Okay, so that's the simple answer. Okay.
If I could jump in there. Hey, everybody. I've been quietly freaking out here because I wasn't joined to the meeting. And John, I think you do a great job. I almost think maybe you can just do all the rest of these without me. But I did want to talk a little bit about the condo financing, which is, I don't know of a single condo building that's being financed in Metro Atlanta right now, except for very small ones, typically like 30 units or less. Most of the banks are still ask for very high pre-sales. So, if you had 3 people there that were all pre-qualified and had, checks in their hands. Sometimes you can't actually sell the units to them because the bank requires a certain percentage and you don't meet that percentage for pre-sales. So typically, like I said, you find very small condo deals or people doing rental. That's not to say that, in some cases, apartment buildings can be converted to condominiums over time. And then the other thing on the senior housing, I think it's 80% of the units have to have somebody who is 55 years or older. So it's not 100%. It's still obviously very high, but in order not to run afoul of the Fair Housing Act, we're following, HUD guidelines on the restrictions.
Thank you, Laurel. One more follow-up question. I think this is for the city. So we've got High Street, and then we haven't. This would be the first apartment complex to be approved. And I just want to keep future vision just in the back of my mind as I think about Perimeter Mall and the way that that may in the future build out and develop, and where the MARTA is in relationship to the apartments that we would be approving. Do we have, so I guess my first question for the city is, do we have a need for apartments? And then number 2, as we continue to look at the development of Perimeter Center, what is our saturation point as we're approving developments? Is this the area and the type that you would want to see put in, or is there another area that we would rather save, I hate saying the idea of saving the approval of amending and saying, yes, this is where we want to, provide SLUPs, and this is the area we want to see developed, instead of knowing that in the future, maybe there would be another area that we would rather allot that area to. I know that's convoluted, and I guess it's a question of, is this what we want to see happening? And do we see this a need for it immediately? And would this be shooting ourselves in the foot later on? So Richard or anybody.
Here it comes.
It's up to you to decide if this is worth it. I don't want to impose my view on here. I definitely think it is close enough to MARTA and Perimeter Mall so that it, whether it's multifamily or multifamily senior, we think it is a good location for it. But I wouldn't go on and speculate about the future, because this is the first apartment complex that you'll ever approve, if you all approve it.
Right. And I recognize one of the things that we've talked about in the past that developers are come to us is that they are gun shy to come to us with these, because in the past they have been automatic no's. It hasn't been something that we would even consider or talk about. And I think it's important to talk about it. But also keeping the big picture in mind is just what I've been thinking about as we look at the map, as it were, of, what the potential for development in the PCID area is this a location? And then as we talk about residential saturation, do we need the apartments? What is the impact on the balance of residential in the city? And then what's the potential future impact of that as well? How do we sit with those numbers? And so could you speak to that, for a minute, Richard? What do you see? What does the planning department see in terms of the need for apartments right now? And then how are we on balance with the city right now?
So currently we're about 52 to 54% of the entire housing stock is apartments. And that has not radically changed in the 12 years that we've been in existence. But we have grown State Farm, 1224. We have got lots of large office buildings and no place to put those people. So they have to move outside the city and commute from there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Ed, questions, comments?
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I do, comments and questions. So let's see, I appreciate my colleagues, commissioners, with your questions. Eric, I really appreciate your thought-provoking questions. They make me think about the vision of what we're doing over here in this area, because I live right in this area. I'm literally looking out over the mall and King Queen building, looking at it right now. And for the applicant, I really like what you're building here. I go back and forth on the age restriction, because I know I have colleagues that are professionals that don't necessarily meet that age restriction, but there's a lot of growth in this area. And I can only imagine post-COVID situation that people will come back to this area, and we'll all go back to our office buildings eventually, and then State Farms here, Cox Enterprises here, the malls being built up, all the restaurants that are being built up right across the street from what you're proposing. I really like the idea. I really like the idea about walkable communities. I know my colleagues and my friends are all looking for stuff like that. So I really like the idea. So I appreciate that. I also appreciate what you came back to us with in terms of what we asked for, the elevation requirements, the traffic study. So thank you for that. Do have a question about, you mentioned pets. I've seen this done both ways, and I wasn't sure where you're going with it. I liked all your amenities. And again, if I didn't own here in Manhattan, you'd be something I consider, because, you know, lock and go, I travel quite a bit, and I lock my place and I can go, and I know I come back home and catch Martin and walk over home and be back to where I want to be. But yeah, pets. Where are the, so I guess there's going to be pets allowed in this building. Is that right?
That's correct.
Dogs and cats? Anything, what's you thinking?
Yes, dogs and cats, and there's usually size limitations, that sort of, not for the cats, but for the
like breeds and limitations on breeds. I can tell you, we've had problems with some people showing up with like pit bulls and stuff, and
right.
A lot of people get a little that.
I actually don't know, because we have a leasing team that does that sort of thing, and they have standards for all of these things. But I'm sure that breeds that would create issues are probably carefully looked at.
Yeah, that's just something I'd like you to consider somehow, some way. I don't know, you know, obviously doing age restrictions, so maybe you consider. I know in ours, there's actually breeds that are called out. There's like 8 breeds that cannot be in part of the building, but then, which is kind of strange, there's like a pit bull is not a breed, which is kind of weird. Anyways, long story, but just providing that as information. The other thing was, I didn't see in your plan, if you do have dogs, where are the dogs going to go to the bathroom? I mean, we have in our building at the Manhattan, we have a place where there's a location there on the 8th floor that's away from everything. That's where they go. I didn't see anything in your renderings. I mean, is it expected that they go where are they going to?
Yeah, oh, there'll definitely be a dog walk. I mean, we include those in every single project we do. We haven't gotten that far in the detail of the design. The whole purpose of this was try to give the commission a comfort level as in the direction we were going in, so that you understood that, you know, our intention here and our commitment here is to build a Class A+ property that will be a benefit to Dunwoody and the community in general.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I really like what you're building here in terms of the amenities and the technology advancements that you're putting in place. Those are great. I just had concerns about things like that, because I've seen it done both ways. I've seen no dogs, and then I've seen dogs, and where they have dogs, they have problems, and just trying to see where you're aiming at. Other than that, I just want to say again, appreciate your coming back to us with what we asked for. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And, you know, we try to please.
That's it for me, Thomas.
All righty. Thank you, Ed. I want to just to echo what my commissioners have said. Thank you. I mean, a lot of the concerns that I expressed or held last week were addressed here. I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask, but I feel significantly more comfortable, and I think that the renderings helped visualize that. The street level renderings, at least for my part, in particular with regard to the parking garage. Kind of helped me visualize that a little bit better. I wanted to ask, because as of the last meeting, we hadn't heard, but have you heard anything from the property owner of that existing apartment complex? As of last meeting, you said you had not. Where are we on that?
No, we have not.
Okay, and you reached out to, was it the owner, the management company? Whom did you reach out to in order to enter a discussion?
Yeah, previously, when we went through our first approval process, and I think Laurel can probably answer that.
Yeah, I think they we sent letters to the owner. Of course, the owner would have received notification from the city that the zoning change was coming up as well. And the first time round, I spoke to the management company for the apartments. So, and I think she said she was going to let the residents know at that time, but we never heard anything back from anybody in the apartment building. And that was specifically for the hotel. To be fair, it wasn't for this project, but it was for the 12-story hotel.
Okay, all right, thank you. And the only other comment that I have is this is more a comment to the other planning commissioners as we figure out what we're going to do going forward. You know, a year or two ago, we approved this project as a hotel, and the traffic study shows what it shows here. Daily traffic of 1,380 total trips, it looks like. And we have an opportunity to approve a project that the developer has agreed is a project that they're happy to approve, or for us to approve, which is the age restriction. And I know we talked about removing the age restriction, but by my look, we have an opportunity to reduce the impact of this project that we previously approved. We have the opportunity to reduce the traffic by about 40% from what was originally approved. Moreover, we don't have a fight from the developer because they're comfortable with the age restriction being part of it. And I want to point that out for your consideration as we decide what our go forward is here. I think that's significant. And very rarely are we going to have the opportunity to say that, you know, we prescribed a plan and then managed to give our rubber stamp to a plan that actually reduces traffic from what the project we originally approved was. And I think that's significant, all things considered. So that'll conclude my comments at this point. And I know staff will correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point, I believe we would look to the board for a motion. And if I'm not mistaken, we need to have, and staff, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, we need to have 4 different motions and approvals. Is that correct? Or 5 rather?
There are 5 motions, 1 for the rezoning and 4 for the SLUP. And you can see those highlighted on the staff report and the agenda.
Roger that. Okay. So does anybody want to offer a motion up? And I guess what I think would probably be wise to do is just go sequentially through our agenda tonight. So RZ 2003, would anybody care to make a motion based on that element, please?
What page are y'all on?
We're looking at on the, it's the very first page of the memorandum has the zoning and the SLUPs. Page 5 of the packet.
Yep, got it.
I'll make a motion then, and I probably won't get this exactly right.
I'm sorry, is this Robert speaking?
Yeah, this is Robert. You've got my mask on, you can't see anything.
Gotcha.
I'll make a motion that we approve item number 1, the rezoning 20-03 from C1 to PC2. And for all of these, I'm just going to tack on with all staff recommendations attached. Because I'm not sure which different SLUPs and rezonings they apply to. So I'm going to just, we'll tack them onto all of those as applicable, I guess.
So I've heard Robert Price motion to approve item number E2 on our agenda, RZ 20-03, inclusive of staff recommendations. Is there a second to that motion?
Erica Harris will second it.
Okay, we have a second from Erica Harris. There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor of passing the motion, please raise your hands. All those opposed, like sign. Looks to me like the motion carries. Second motion, SLUP 20-02. Would somebody care to offer a motion on that?
This is Rob again. I will make a motion that we approve item number 2, SLUP 20-2A, the SLUP to allow for a change in the impervious coverage that's allowed, with the conditions that all staff recommendations be accepted. And I would also, not as a requirement, but as an encouragement, encourage that LEED certification for the building be pursued, water reuse practices be incorporated, and EV charging stations be added to the parking deck.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve 20-02A with staff recommendations plus encouragement of LEED certification, water reuse, and EV installations. And that motion has been seconded by Kirk Anders. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any discussion. All those in favor of passing the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Okay. Item number 4, please. SLUP 20-02B. What's your pleasure?
Should I just continue?
Keep rolling, man.
These are apparently all coming from me tonight. All right, I move that we approve item number 3, SLUP 20-2, a SLUP to allow residential use of age-restricted multifamily housing. I'm going to just tack a note on to encourage the city to consider whether or not just non-age restricted multifamily housing be approved, but I'm not going to, I'm going to put that on as an encouragement, not as a recommendation. But I move that we approve item number 3 with all staff recommendations attached.
I want to repeat that back to you to make sure that I understood.
Because I rambled a bit on that one, sorry.
I'll repeat it back, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. I heard a motion to approve 20-02B as written with additional staff recommendations, plus an encouragement that the city consider making it non-age restricted. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay, that's a statement of the motion. Is there a second?
It's going to dial.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Rob Price, second by Erica Harris. Having a motion and a second, is there discussion?
I think maybe to just approve as is and not add on the encouragement to remove age restriction.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I want to make sure we take a vote on that motion second and discuss that. But if that motion happens to fail, then we could take another swing at it and craft a different motion if that is the pleasure of the Planning Commission. Is there any additional discussion?
My thoughts are that City Council, the encouragement I think would come from our discussion tonight, and knowing that the property would rent up faster without the age restriction. Hearing Commissioner Wagner's comments on that, there are corporate offices here. There are people who are under 55 who would benefit from this project, but also understanding that we do have a need. So for me, the encouragement stands as that there are things to consider where we would benefit from it not being age restricted, but ultimately, if it's the city's pleasure to have it be age restricted, fine by it as well. I like leaving it just because it says that there's more to the story than what's being presented.
And they're going to consider it either way, I think.
Keep in mind, it's 80%, not 100%.
True.
When you say 80%, not 100, you're saying that if we leave the age restriction in place, the restriction still only covers 80% of the occupied units. Is that what you're saying, Kirk?
Yeah, the HUD law that was referenced says that
Right.
Minimum of 80%. So if they chose, they could do 20% not age restricted.
Okay, So we've got a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion on that motion in the second? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving 20-02B with staff recommendations as well as an encouragement by council or by us to council to consider making this non-age restricted. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed signify by like sign. We've got 4-2. Believe the motion carries. All right, next motion, or next item for our consideration, SLEP 20-02C. Does anybody have a motion on that?
I guess I'll keep rolling here. I move that we approve item number 4, SLEP 20-2C to reduce the required interior side yard setback and reduce the rear yard setback with all staff recommendations attached.
Is there a second?
I'll second it again.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. The motion, to restate it for those keeping score at home, is to approve 20-02C with the addition of staff recommendations. Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Not hearing any discussion. All those in favor of passing the motion as proposed, raise your hand. All those opposed, like sign. All right, the motion carries. Finally, SLEP 20-2D is how it's listed here. Anybody have a motion on that element?
I recommend that we approve SLEP 20-2D to address the ground floor uses on the facades of the building with all staff recommendations attached.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of approving SLEP 20-2D as written with additional staff recommendations, raise your hand. All those opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Okay. I believe we have dealt with our unfinished business at this point. Staff, is there any new business to address?
Before you get to new business, I want to thank the commission very much for your diligence and your questions, and we look forward to bringing a quality project to the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being responsive to our requests and our questions as well. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, staff, any new business for us?
No, there's no new business, and I just want to wish all of you happy holidays, and for those of you at home as well.
Thank you.
You too.
Is there any other business at this point? I'll take that as a no. At this point, we have the opportunity for public comment. I can't see what the room looks like there, but it does not look like there's a whole lot of public in the Zoom call, but we're happy to entertain it. Is there any public comment at this time?
There's no public present in the room.
Okay, and I don't see any on the Zoom either. Okay, with that said, is there any commission comment? And I can call names, or we can just raise hands. How do we want to do this? Is there any, I'll tell you what, why don't I just call names? It'll make it easier. Any commission comment, starting with Robert Price, please.
I guess the only option or only observation I'll make is this is the first apartment complex that came our way, and I don't think it'll be the last, because this is a really rapidly developing area. And, you know, if we want to address traffic in any meaningful way, people need to be able to get to where they work without having to drive long distances. So even though I've got kids in the public schools and they may get more crowded, I think we need to just keep in mind as much flexibility in quality housing products and as much variety, you know, to kind of fit the needs of how this area is building up. So just my thought on, I see the need for more apartments, honestly, in Dunwoody, as sacrilegious as that may be.
Thank you. Kirk.
I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for running the meeting.
Jared, you got it. Jared?
Yeah, I'll, you know, just to touch on that as well. you know, I like to consider, I mean, I've got 3 kids under the age of 6, so I'm always kind of, you know, advocating for the schools. We have a lot of folks pulling kids out of the public school, going to private. Obviously, it has to do with, you know, COVID and that type of thing as well, but they are extremely overcrowded. And that's kind of where I kind of fall in that category, especially with a lot of friends and neighbors that we have, and people are very concerned about that. Although I will say, Robert, I mean, you're right. I mean, you know, in 20 years, I mean, what is Perimeter going to look like? You know, could very well be, you know, the center of Atlanta at that point. I mean, it's going to, these folks that are coming in with these Fortune 500 companies and putting their headquarters here, they definitely need some place to go. And I just think that's why we need to approve very great projects to, you know, attract the best that we possibly can. So, you know, it's a catch-22, but, you know, just to think about, you know, both sides, I guess, when we're moving forward.
Yeah.
So, that's it.
Great. Thank you. Erica?
I think piggybacking on those comments, and so one of the things, you know, as we talk about the vision and moving forward and we start to imagine out, I mean, a lot of this is how do the puzzle pieces fit together? So we talk about schools, and maybe one of the conversations we need to start having as we approve apartments in this area is where does this fit in with the school system? And starting to be, I think, imaginative in our partnership with the school district. Do we, maybe there's a K-8 building that needs to be, as land gets developed, how do we encourage a K-8 building so that we have the ability to be diverse, truly diverse in what housing looks like in the PCID area without necessarily it negatively impacting the school system? So how do we have those conversations? How do we really look at the PCID? As I agree with you, Robert, we are going to be seeing more of these, or maybe that was Jared who made the comment that we're going to be seeing more of these developments. So what is that big vision? How do the puzzle pieces start to fit together? How do we address transit? I know that the city started to talk about having more short distance transit, so shuttle buses. Would this project be a great one to have a shuttle bus that could run from this project to the MARTA? Because I know we talk about the distance, the 1 mile connectivity. It's actually less than that if we're talking about people really making it walkable. So what are the different things that we can be doing to address some of these concerns? Because yes, it's going to keep growing. And I think we need to start having some creative conversations about how to address the traffic, the school needs. And I think that should be part of our visioning. Happy holidays.
Ed?
Yeah, so let me first say thanks to the city staff. Appreciate you guys doing what you're doing, because it helps us get through what we need to hear and what we need to see for approving and seeing applicants like this. Appreciate the applicants coming in with their answers quickly and getting us what we needed, what we asked for. Appreciate that. Thomas, thanks for stepping in real quick and running this. Dallas, hope he's okay. The other is I really appreciate the way we dissected this problem. Again, like you said, well, you guys all said that first apartment building we've approved in a while. It's never been approved. First one we've approved. I've been part of this commission now for 3 years now. It's first time I've seen it approved. And I really like the way we all come at it from our own perspectives. I live in this area and I'm just watching this area grow more and more, what we approve around here. And I'm just, to your point, who knows what this is going to be in 10, 20 years, but I think it's going to be an epicenter. So I appreciate all of our own skills and our own perspectives and what we bring to the table. So thank you for that. That's it, Thomas.
Thank you. In the spirit of Bob, I've only got just a few comments here. But I would be remiss, and if he watches this, I want to make sure he sees this part. I would be remiss in not talking about inclusive zoning for a moment, because Bob is repeatedly a champion of inclusive zoning, and I think that's something that we want to watch closely and be a part of, because it does give us an opportunity to welcome others to our community and to truly, chase diversity, but with a plan. And I think there's a real opportunity there. I also am known for railing against projects that come in front of us in a half-baked state, especially now that we're fairly limited in our ability to take bites at the apple and refine these things. And so I just want to share my pleasure in the fact that I believe that this developer really did come in front of us and did make an earnest attempt to work within the timeframes that we were given. to review, because had they not had that traffic study done and had they not pulled those elevations out, we would have been forced to make a less informed answer. And, I think that council may wish to consider giving us another bite at the apple or giving us additional time. And, but what I will say is I believe that they're going to get the best product from us when we have an opportunity to work with responsive developers and put our fingerprints on it. And this developer allowed that to happen. And so I want to thank them for that as well. And everybody's right. We're about to probably see the floodgates of apartments. Who knows? Apartment approvals. And I know it's been the political third rail in Dunwoody, really since Dunwoody's become a city. And we definitely want to do this in the most advisable, respectful way possible. But we also need to remember that we're a board that communicates ideas to the commissioners, but really we serve at the pleasure of the members of the city. And we're going to hear a lot from members of the city about apartments, especially unchecked growth. And I want us to be ready for that, but I also want us to be thinking, to the team and everybody else here has said, we need to get creative with our solutions and figure out how best to serve the people that live here now, as well as the people that want to live here and hopefully stay off the roads because they can live, work, and play in the same spot. So anyway, without further ado, I don't have any further comment unless anybody else does. Any hands?
One last comment, Thomas.
I'm sorry, one more time?
I have one last comment
Yes, sir.
on that whole thing. So, one of the things that I'm sure the city council has probably thought of and, is going to happen in the future, especially if we are going to start getting more apartment complexes, is obviously just, put in a, elementary school, here in Perimeter. And that would solve a lot of the issues, I think. Just want to throw that out there.
I don't disagree with you, but we've got to work with the county on that. I'm sorry, Erica, were you saying something?
No, I agree with Jared. I think that that's something that maybe, like we wanted to meet about the parking decks, and maybe Jared, you and I tag team and we start some of that discussion. And I would argue that it probably should be a K-8.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any further comment?
Well, we've got a high school that's in the largest classification in the state that's in a neighborhood right now. So it's more than K-8. So, Dunwoody High School moved up to 7A this year.
7A.
They cut down all their trees to fill the property with modulars.
Yeah, and it wasn't designed to be a 7A high school. It wasn't located in a location for a 7A high school. So it's definitely more than K-8. I think there's 600 per class now. And I don't, somebody that's smarter than me can tell you, but I'm pretty sure it was designed for maybe 400 or something.
Yeah.
So maybe Richard can get one of these developers to throw in the land, but we still have to.
Biggest problem.
We can talk and talk and talk, and I've been hearing this talk for 20 years. We've got a different entity that controls whether that schools get built or not. So.
All right, any further comment? All right, well, then the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Y'all have a great holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Stay safe out there.